Welcome to the annual membership meeting for IWRC. Thank you all so much for taking the time to meet with us this morning or afternoon or evening, as Kai mentioned. Today the call will be chaired by Kai Williams, who's our Executive Director, Adam Grogan, who is our President-elect, and myself, Susan Wyman, who's President. If you have any questions throughout the call, don't be shy. There is a chat tool that you can write a question or put your hand up as well, which will be on. There will be a question and answer period during, at the end of the guest speaker as well as at the end of the meeting. If you think of any questions you have and you're not, you don't want to forget them, you're welcome to write them on your chat tool, and we'll address them later. So to start the meeting, Kai, I'll pass it on to you.
Great. Welcome. We are happy to have you. As you probably know, I'm Kai Williams, the Executive Director of IWRC, and Sue, who was just talking, is our President. And we're just going to go through a couple of things about the meeting platform. We'll have a couple of polls come up at various times, so keep an eye on that to happen. And you're always welcome to use the chat function to ask questions, as Sue said. And we are just going to get going. We actually underestimated the time constraints of the meeting, so we're only going to be providing one keynote today, but my sincere thanks to Bonnie Zimmerman, who's of the Indonesian Parrot Project, who was our other planned keynote. We really appreciate her willingness to do that. So with no further ado, we're going to start with our keynote. We're going to be sharing it by video, and then we'll have a live question and answer period. So one moment while I share my screen.
Hi, I'm Lloyd Brown from the International Wildlife Rehabilitation Council. A few years ago, we taught the IWRC Basic Skills class in Brunei, which is a small country on the northern coast of the island of Borneo. Borneo has 3 countries: Brunei, Malaysia, and Indonesia. While we were there, we decided to travel around and see some of the other wildlife centers and learn about the work that the people there were doing, the animals they were rescuing, and learn more about the people who were doing the work. One of the places we visited was the Bornean Sun Bear Conservation Center in Sandakan, Sabah, Malaysia. The guy that runs the place is named Wong Siu-Tay. And Wong has done an amazing job at changing the attitudes, the hearts and minds of the people in Southeast Asia about the purpose and the place of sun bears on the planet. A lot of people down there think that sun bears are only good for keeping as personal pets in small cages in our house, or some of them just farm them for their bile. But Wong is trying to change everybody's attitude and teach them that the sun bears do have a place on our planet. And he's trying to rehabilitate those that have been confiscated from captivity as illegal pets or released back to the wild. So without any further ado, my friend Wong Siu-Tay.
Hi everyone. It is a great honor for me to be here to speak with you all during this electronic meetings at the International Wildlife Rehabilitation Council. My name is Wong Siu-Tay. I've been working with the Malayan sun bear, or particularly the Bornean sun bear on the islands of Borneo over the last 20 years. And 10 years ago, I founded this Bornean Sun Bear Conservation Center in order to conserve sun bears in this part of the world. Under the theme of conservations, we try to conserve sun bears through a holistic approach that incorporates improved animal welfare by rescuing the sun bears that need to be rescued. People keep sun bears as pets and also exhibit them in mini zoos and crocodile farms to attract crowd to make profit. So those animals need to be rescued and well taken care of. So we do animal welfare work. And the second thing that we're trying to do is trying to educate the public about the plight of sun bears, the importance of the rainforest, and anything that has to be related to the survival of sun bears. And then after that, we work with various research projects, including studying bears in both bears in the wild and also in captivity at our center. And then and finally, those bears that can be rehabilitated into the wild, we do want to give them a second chance in order to live in the wild. And then and after a few years pass, we also start working with ecotourism, because ecotourism is the field that we think of to generate revenues instead of logging the forest, instead of clearing the forest into palm plantations to generate revenues. I think ecotourism is a very important area where we can generate sufficient revenues to so that our standing forests, our wildlife do have value. Yeah, and then it will create an incentive for the governments to protect our forests, to protect our wildlife. And then after that, we start working with local community on our community conservation theme. And then in the near future, we will start working with anti-poaching and captive breeding in the future, not now. So all in all, these 8 themes is the work that we have been focusing on at the Bornean Subway Conservation Center. I repeat again: animal welfare, education, research, rehabilitations, community conservations, captive breeding, anti-poaching, and then today I'm going to talk more about the rehabilitation side. So over the last 10 years or so, we have rescued 59 sun bears on the islands of Borneo in the state of Sabah, only the northern side of Sabah. And then we work closely with the Sabah Wildlife Department, who is the wildlife authority in this part of the world, to do all the rescue and confiscation. And because we are a non-profit organizations, we don't have the jurisdictions to enforce wildlife law, but instead we depend on the Sabah Wildlife Department, who is the government authority, to do the rescue, and then we take care of these animals. And then these bears comes in all different kind of conditions and all kind of ages. We rescue bears from tiny little cubs to 18 years old. They're stuck in the cages and stuff like that. So for us, those adult bears that we rescue, who has been in captivity for a long time, is very difficult to rehabilitate. It's virtually impossible, because they has been in captivity for too long. As all of us know, they're habituated people. They dependent on human for food, and what we observe over the last few years is that these animals also are not capable of, say, performs some natural behavior like tree climbing. We know from years of study that the sun bears live in this tropical rainforest of Southeast Asia, and especially rainforests in Borneo, Sumatra, and West Malaysia. These forests are very tall, very high, up to like 50 meters tall. And then one of the adaptations for these bears to live in this kind of forest habitat is that they are able to climb really, really high in order to get hold of fruits, in order to sleep high on top of the trees, and also in order to escape from predations by tigers, by a big snake like python, and also escape being blood sucked by all these blood sucking leeches in this part of the world. So climbing behaviors is very, very important. And of course, they have to be able to find natural food items like termites, beetles, earthworms, and wild fruit, and so on. And all of this natural instinct on finding food slowly disappear if they were kept in the cages or in captivity for too long. So at the end, we focus a lot of our rehabilitation work on younger animals that we rescue, cubs especially. And the process of rehabilitation of cubs is that after the cubs has been rescued, and then the first thing we need to do is to bond with them to gain their trust. So we assign, in the past it was myself, to do all this, best job in the world. But right now, because my workload is quite heavy now, so I dependent on my staff, my animal keeper, to take care of all of these orphan animals. And by the way, all of these bears that we rescue, they are all orphan animals. Their mother has been shot by poachers, and they've been taken as a cubs. And then, so these cubs often they lost their mother, and then when they were sent here, all of them are traumatized, freaked out, So the very first thing that we need to do is to gain their trust between us and the bear. So we assign only few bear keepers or the cub keepers that work with these animals, with these babies, and then fed them around the clock, dependent on how old they were when we rescue them. And then slowly they bond with our keepers, and then they slowly grow up from there. And then once the bonding is established, and of course they have to pass through the 30 days of the quarantine period, where during this period our vet would perform a health check on them and then make sure that they are healthy, they are not injured or missing a canine or missing a tooth or this and that. And then after 30 days, the bonding also established, and then we start walk them in the forest. So the walking them in the forest serve many purposes actually. And then only these few people that we assigned to work with them got to walk a bear cub in the forest. And then when the bears are exposed to the forest, they have the instinct on foraging. This is very important when they come across a termite nest. And sometimes we have to, show them or encourage them feed on the termite nest. And then they will start licking and eating those tiny little termites. And then sometimes when they sniff on earthworm, for example, on the ground, they will start digging, and all of that are instinct plus a little bit of encouragement. And then we also see that when the cubs is small and they have no idea whether they can climb, so sometimes we need to encourage them to climb the tree by put some honey on the tree, and then they will follow the honey trail up on the top of the tree. Or sometimes in the process of playing, our staff would try to climb a tree, and then they would follow and so on. And then playing is a very important skill to have when we do this walking in the forest. And then so during this playing, the bonding established, and we also can encourage them to do tree climbing and so on. And then after they figured it out, they can climb tree, they would continue climb tree, and things like tree climbing is really fun to do. And then so this process is ongoing every day. And then until certain age, say for example, here from our previous experience is that when the bear cub reach about 20 kilograms, they are a little bit difficult and dangerous to walk anymore, because sometimes they want to play with their big claws and sharp canines. We as a humans, we just cannot play with them. Our skin is really, really thin, and then so we have to introduce them to other bear cub of the same size or the similar age. And then after that, they would grow up at our forest enclosure. So in this forest enclosure, so far our center have about 2.5 hectares of forest enclosures divided into 10 different pens. And then all of these forest enclosures have tall trees, thick vegetations, and this is literally a mature forest. And then when they are let out early in the morning at 8 o'clock, before 9 o'clock, after 8 o'clock, to explore the forest all day until 4 p.m. in the evening. And then so when they were in this forest enclosure, they still be able to perform some of the wild activities that they used to do when we would walk them in the forest, like foraging on termites, on beetles, on millipedes, on earthworm, and so on. And then at the same time, they also can climb trees as well. As I mentioned just now, tree climbing is such an important skill for them to have, and then they have to all constantly tree climbing, and so that they can improve their muscle strength, and when their body weight increase, when they get older, the strength of their hands is also get older as well. So this is very important that we see. So they were literally grown up in this forest enclosure for the next few years until they are fully grown. And then when they are fully grown, that's the time where we consider to release them back into the wild. And then one of the things that we learned is that in the forests of Southeast Asia, another threat for the sun bears is other bears. Bear kills bear in this forest. And then and in the wild, they always have their mom to take care of them. They actually live with their mother for up to 3 years or so, almost the same size with their mother until before they go separate way and before they leave their mother or wean off from their mother's care. And at the time they are be able to defend for themselves if they encounter dangers, especially other bears in the forest. If they were still a cub, and then if they encounter a wild bear in the forest, a wild adult bear in the forest, I don't think they have the chance to survive. Several rehab bears that has been released and rehab as a cub or as a juveniles end up dead because of being killed by other bears, including this bear behind me. This is little one, who was rehabilitated and walked by Gabriela Fredrickson and other some bear researchers back in 2000. She was killed by another adult male bear. So because of this, we only release our bears when they reach adulthood after 4 or 5 years or so. Also, when they, for female, they reach about 35 kilogram. For male, they reach about 45 kilogram. And then, so that's the process. And then over the last, in 2015, we released our first bear in our project at the Budan Bear Conservation Project. I personally have released another bear back in 2006, a young adult female sun bear in the forest, but she did not make it. She died after 2 months of starvations and getting not enough food. And then, so for our Budan Bear Conservation projects over the last 4 years or so, we really have released 4 bears. Our very first bear was released back in 2015. She was a 6 years old female bear, 5 years old female bear at the time. And then we released her back into the forest. And then all of our bears was fitted with a satellite collar. And then we monitor, and then they were all brought into this big forest reserve called Tabin Forest Reserve. Tabin Forest Reserve is it's a large protected area, natural lowland deep tropical forest, double the size of Singapore, that size of 1,200 square kilometers. And then we chartered a helicopter and dropped her right in the middle of the forest. It is a hard release project. And then we managed to monitor her for more than 2 months, and after that she drops her collar, and we managed to pick up the collar after she dropped her collar, a clean slip of the collar. So we do not know how she did after the collar drop. And then in 2016 we released another bears, and then unfortunately her collar also not drop off, but the signal disappeared after a few months in the forest. And then so it's an inconclusive result. And then early this year we released 2 bears at the same time, also at the same location. And then and we managed to again follow the signals for the first 3 months, and then so far one of them dropped their collar, and we managed to retrieve the collar back, and then the other one still went missing, and we did not attempt to go into the forest to look for the collar. Anyway, so rehabilitation is something that we want and we want to continue to do, and right now I'm preparing another 3 release that will happen in the next few months. Hopefully we will get this crate from transportation crate from Australia really soon, and then we will do another batch of release, maybe 3 bears at one time this time. And then at the same time, I'm also planning working on the rehabilitation camp where we want to bring our bear cubs that we rescue into the forest and raise the bear cubs in the forest and walking them in the forest every day until they slowly wean off from the human caretaker. And I hope that project is successful, and this project is a long-term rehabilitation project, and hopefully we can do all these things successfully. I know this whole thing is very, very challenging. It's not easy, but we are determined to do this. So yeah, that's me talking about the rehabilitation process of the Budan Bear Conservation Center, and obviously we are still relatively young in this field, and we hope to learn from many people like all of you who have been rehabilitating all sort of animals over the last many years. Thank you for watching me talking, and thank you for your time.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much, Wong. I just am amazed every time I hear you talk about that, and especially this talk right here. Just it really enunciates all the things that we learn as rehabilitators, and also all that goes into rehabilitation. That's more than just medical care. So at this point, I would like to open it up for anyone who has questions for Wong.
Yeah, before everybody asks questions, I want to say thank you for this opportunity, to know all of you and to know more about this group of people, this association. Yeah, so thank you. Yeah.
Fantastic. And let's see, Silky, you have a question. I'm going to unmute you to ask your question if that works. And I apologize if I'm pronouncing anyone's name wrong. Silky, would you like to ask?
Oh, okay. Can you hear me? Does this work?
Yes, yeah, yep, loud and clear.
If I understood correctly, you said that you keep the bears until they're about 4 or 5 years old and release them then?
Yes, that is correct.
And this is just because the worry that other adult bears are killing them?
Yes, if we were to release bears when they are still young or relatively small sizes, and then if they bump into other adult bears, then they might get killed. And this is what happened to many of the sun bear that has been released, not on my project, but other projects in Sumatra, in Borneo, and also in Cambodia as well. And it seems like, in the wild, those bears really have a tough life, and the bears compete with each other, and they try to eliminate each other. And then in the wild, the cub is always with their moms, so the mom will protect them. But right now, because all of the cubs that we rescue are all open animals, mom are not with them. So if we will release young adults or juveniles, I don't think the chances for them surviving in the wild is high.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
I'm gonna let's see. Adam Grogan, our president-elect, has a question, and I'm just gonna set up. There you go, Adam.
Thank you very much for a very interesting talk. I went to China many years ago, and I saw another rehab facility where some of the bears that are used in the bile industry come out, and they have operations to, correct the injuries that are caused to them in order to milk the bile. I was wondering, do you get any bears from the bile trade, or all yours just orphaned and so on?
No, ours is just orphaned. Fortunately, the whole bear farming for bear bile, this industry is not yet reached Borneo. So there's no issue with bile farming, but there are local people here still use bear bile. The way they use it is just they kill the bears and get the bile. End of story. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to ask a question just while we wait for a little bit more time to see if anybody has questions that they're coming up with. And one thing that was just occurring to me is I was curious about what's, and I might have some volume sounds, so sorry about that. But what's next? Like, what do you see over the next 5-10 years at the center there? What do you see coming in the future?
Okay, so just now I mentioned that the roadmap for us for the next 10 years will incorporate the 8 themes that it will incorporate the 4 themes that we have been doing for the last 9 or 10 years or so, plus the ecotourisms, community conservations, captive breeding, and anti-poaching. So all in all will be a focus for our center. And then beside the runnings, our center as it is right now, our hope is to establish another project in Tabin. I mentioned about the Tabin Wildlife Reserve, for us to establish a bear rehabilitation camps there. And then that camp were to be established as a station, as a research station to study wild and this rehab bears, as well as beef up to build up the capacity to do anti-poaching and patrolling this wildlife reserve. Currently, the wildlife department is the jurisdictions or manager for this wildlife reserve, but they are seriously understaffed. You know, they only have like 2 staff to patrol this 1,200 square kilometers of forest patches, still in good quality. And there's been a lot of poaching activities on the perimeters of this reserve. And then, so I think we want to help the authorities to establish, to establish our, rangers and our anti-poaching patrols on the ground in order to stop poachers coming in order to, work on any kind of illegal poaching activities. So that would be the focus. And at the same time, our center will be still running as usual. And then another important thing that we want to do, but we are not yet doing, is captive breeding. So far, we don't encourage our bears to breed because we got more bears that we can handle. And then, but in the future, I foresee that once hunting and poaching is under control, and then if we keep on releasing bears, you will free up, the space at our center, and then and that's the times where we will start breeding bears, and then those captive bred animals to be released back into the forest that used to have bears but no longer have bears. And I foresee that there are many forest patches in the future will have no bear because of hunting and poaching. So together with these 8 themes, that will be the roadmap, or that will be the things that we are focusing for the next 10 years. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you so much for joining us today for the keynote, and especially for answering questions. For those of you not in Southeast Asia, it is about 1 a.m. there. So it is a late night. So we appreciate it. We're going to move into our committee reports.
Thank you again. What an amazing opportunity. We really appreciate the time that you took to speak to us. So we're moving on just to keep with the flow of the meeting, and we'll be talking a bit about the committees and some of the work that we've been doing. As you know, we have many different committees at IWRC, and all of them play an important role in the work that the organization's doing. Kai, will Diana be meeting with us today? Okay. So
sorry about that. Nope, Diana is not going to be here today.
Okay, thank you. So,
she had an emergency come up, I think. And I am happy, though, if you'd like for me to read her report up for us.
That would be wonderful. So Diana is our chairperson of the membership committee, and Kai will fill us in on your activities.
Excellent. So Diana and her committee have been doing a lot of excellent work, and I'm just going to read this out verbatim. Our updated version of the International Directory, which in this case means outside of the US and Canada, of rehabilitators is now active on the website. The old version was unfortunately very out of date, so any listings that were no longer available or couldn't have been verified were removed from the listing, and facilities that we have information for have been added. So if you visit the International Directory on IWRC's website and see any facilities that are not already listed, Diana would really love to hear from you so they can be added. One way to email Diana or to contact her is to email dianah@theiwrc.org. If you have attempted recently to utilize the article search for the Journal of Wildlife Rehabilitation, you may have run into some difficulty. Our old database for this search has malfunctioned, and we are working on a new and improved version of the search, and we're hoping it's up and running soon. Side note for me, Kai, this has taken quite a bit of Diana's time, so we really are working on getting that back up. As you may know, each year we publish a directory of members for ease of contacting your fellow rehabilitators. We also give everyone the option of withholding having their information published. In the near future, you might be receiving a contact from us. If so, this means that you did not have either a yes or a no about whether you'd like your information published, and we're looking to add that permission preference to your file. And of course, if at any time you'd like to change your permission preference, just contact Diana or contact the IWRC office. Especially in light of world events, it seems more important than ever to be ready for natural disasters. We are working on an emergency preparedness workbook to assist our members in this process. So please watch the newsletter, as we're going to be seeking input from members on this so we can address all the concerns that our members have throughout the world and throughout the many disasters that we deal with. So that's the report from Diana and membership.
That's great. So it sounds like they've been busy. The next report will be from the Course Development Committee. It'll be Jalissa, from IWRC Program and Membership Coordinator. Jalissa?
There. Okay. Good morning. So the Course Development Committee actually consists of several separate committees that work on classes, online and in person, books, and webinars. It takes a lot of dedication and work from all our fantastic volunteers who donate their time and knowledge into creating these accessible, top-notch educational materials for our students and members, which include the classes and books and webinars. Webinars are available for all members, so don't forget to check that area of the IWRC website and see what's available. Once you log into the membership area, there should be a bunch of different icons, and webinars is one of them, so you just click on that. Let's see, there's a committee that I closely work with, and we finished wound management earlier this year for the online class, and currently it's with Dr. Renee Schott, and she is going to be recording it. Hopefully it'll be done by the end of this year, and it will be up for online registration. And this is just an online class. Fluid management has been completed. It is going through peer review, and then it will need to be recorded as well. And currently we're working on a webinar. It's being redone, actually. It's the needles and syringes webinar. So that is actually complete, and it needs to be recorded soon. So hopefully that'll be up within the next month. And then we're going to be working on some companion webinars for fluid therapy. So that's kind of next in the list. And then there's the Nutrition Committee, which is chaired by Stephanie Herman. And this committee's focus is to complete the new nutrition book. It's going to be a class with content to follow. The course objectives are complete as of now, and the goal is to have 10 chapters in this new book, which is yet to have a title. And right now, 1 chapter is ready for peer review, 5 chapters are with the committee for review, and 4 chapters are being written. So that's where that committee is. The next committee is Parasitology. The initial draft for the online course is complete, and it is in its first review, which should be back within the next couple of weeks. It will go back to the author for updates and any rewrites, and then once that is done, it will go to the committee for review again. The next committee is the Herpetology Committee, which is chaired by Hallie Buckenoff and Bonnie Wroblowski, which is one of our board members, who's project manager. So as of right now, 2/3 of the content is written, and so far the content has been written in book form, but it's yet to be decided whether there will be a book for the class or if it will just be a class with handouts. Either way, I'm sure the class will be great, so look for that in the future. And future projects. So we are going to update pain management class, online and in person. And then a couple classes that are brand new that are coming down the pike are triage and euthanasia. And those objectives have already actually been created. So once we get all this other stuff done, that's next in line. So that's all I have for the Course Development Committee.
Okay. So Adam will be presenting the executive committee report on behalf of Mandy, who's our VP. Unfortunately, Mandy wasn't able to join us. So on to you, Adam.
So good morning, everybody, and thank you for attending the meeting. The executive committee of the IWRC meets on a monthly basis to review the work of the organisation, discussing matter pertaining to staff budget and projects. We recommend actions to the board for ratification. This includes policies. So, for example, during the past year, the board has adopted a conflict of interest policy and a document retention policy. This committee also oversees and comments on particular projects such as Salesforce automation, which we're using for membership, and registration, so IWRC can fundraise in each state, and reviews any issues that need to be considered in the IWRC strategic thinking. Other examples of the executive committee work include discussions on code of ethics and changes to the Migratory Bird Treaty Act interpretation. So, as it's a busy committee meeting every month and passing those recommendations onto the board, the current committee members are Sue Wiley as the president, myself as president-elect, Mandy Camps, who is the vice president and chair, Kristen Heitman is the secretary, Danny Nicholson is a treasurer, and Kai as ED also participates. So that is the executive committee, and let me know if you have any questions.
On to you for the finance on behalf of Danny, our treasurer.
Yeah, and our treasurer, Danny Nicholson, is traveling right now. I cannot wait to hear about her trip. She's in rural Ireland and has iffy internet service, so I'm speaking on her behalf. In 2017, our revenue was $211,000, with our expenses at $198,000. So that gave us a net income of almost $13,000. To date this year, our income and expenses are both higher than 2017, as we've had quite a few more classes. We will be spending our net income after, of course, the general class and member expenses on developing new content. As you heard from Julissa, there's quite a lot happening and the potential for a lot more. So we're quite excited to be in the black and be able to support this. And this might be, while we're waiting for our next talk, maybe this is a good time I could do one of the polls quick. I'm gonna launch the first poll. And you guys should all see this on your screen. And we are just very curious to know how people feel in the wake of a natural disaster. Do you feel prepared at your center or your home rehabilitation clinic, or not at all, or somewhere in between? And I certainly myself is in the sort of area, so it sounds like that's where most of us are. All right, I'm going to close the poll. So most of us felt, you cannot see the results. Sorry about that. I'll just share the results shortly. That most of us are in this sort of, but need more training or preparation. So one of our projects hopefully will be really helping with this. And we'd love to hear more from everybody, both those who are fully prepared or not prepared, because we want to know how we should be targeting our training, as well as tricks and tips that everybody has. Thanks, Sue.
Okay, great. So for the development committee, we have a new board member, Suzanne, who will be presenting on behalf of the committee chair, Lauren Hughes. Suzanne, welcome.
Hi, thank you, Sue. Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Perfect. So, hello, everybody. So for the development report for 2018, the Development Committee continues to focus on the financial development of IWRC. Supported by office staff, the committee continues to explore funding opportunities across a range of foundations, grant applications and sponsorships. And grants and donations received include this year $2,000 was pledged by HSUS for disaster preparedness work. We had $400 pledged in corporate donation from La Faveur. $2,655 was requested from WDA for parasitology course, and we're waiting on those the outcome of that request. Following on from last year's registration across multiple states to comply with legislation which required that non-profits register before being allowed to solicit donations, we also updated our in-house donor database at no cost to the organisation to streamline and simplify our information and remove any duplication. We continue to solicit support for ongoing projects, with our key goal for 2018 to raise $20,700 of the $36,000 in funds required for planned projects. And those projects have been mentioned by others, but Nutrition Book, our Fluid Therapy, Parasitology, Disaster Preparedness Workbook, our Nutrition Course, and Triage Euthanasia. And to cultivate funding for translations of the comprehensive book, and to improve IWRC's name recognition to cultivate future giving. We have an exciting opportunity for new volunteers to join us. We'd love to see some new volunteers join our development committee and to help with the of the committee and support the stewardship of individual giving, corporate sponsorship, and in particular grant writing. So if you are interested in joining the fundraising and development committee and supporting the growth, it's a critical area for IWRC, then please don't hesitate to contact myself or Kai directly. And that's the report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne. One of our newer committees right now is the International Committee. So Adam will be presenting again on behalf of Mandy. Mandy is currently chairing this committee. Adam?
Yep, thank you, Sue. So as Sue said, the committee is relatively new, created in the fall of 2016, and the committee members represent an international presence. So during the first year of operation, we updated the committee charter, outlined the purposes, scope and key objectives of the committee, and started evaluating contract options for course requirements when delivering courses internationally. In 2018, we continued reviewing contract options and course requirements for international courses. This includes the host course documents, which explain the planning and needs and logistics that are required for a host to deliver a course and geared towards those delivering courses in other countries. We've started discussions on how to train the trainer so there can be a wider pool of international instructors to teach our courses in other countries. And also with Julissa and Katie's help, and Katie is also based in the office, we are working to develop a webinar which will help summarize the basic course host requirements and needs. Throughout the year, we also hear updates on international courses because the office have frequently requested to deliver courses in other countries. So you heard Lloyd mention earlier about teaching a course in Brunei. We are often approached about delivering courses in other countries, and where possible, we will aim to help to deliver a course in that country if we are able to do so. At the moment, the committee members are Mandy, who is the chair, there's myself, Dr. Ashraf Navik in India, Lloyd Brown, Francesca Astorga in Chile, and Kelly Donathan, who is now back in the US. Many thanks for that.
So we'll continue. Thank you, Adam, for your time. So it seems that I'm happy we're all together. Sorry, I'm having some difficulty with my computer now, of course. But I'd like to take a couple of minutes to introduce you to the board. So IWRC currently has 12 board members, and we meet on a monthly basis to make different decisions and discuss issues concerning governance, as well as support the office. As some of you may know, after 10 years of being on the board, my term will end at the end of the year. And happily, Adam Grogan will be the new president starting January 1st. So I want to take this time to welcome and thank Adam for taking on this new responsibility. Also, we have another board member, Brenda Harms, who's been with us for 9 years, and her term will end at the end of this year as well. And I want to thank Brenda for her contributions towards IWRC's success, and that we hope to keep in touch with her, even though both of us won't be on the board any longer. All of our board members include Adam Grogan, who's the president-elect. There's Amanda Camps, our VP. Adam's from England, and Amanda's from Wisconsin. We have Kristen from Indiana, Danny from California, Ashraf from India, Bonnie from Texas, Brenda from New York, Brooke from California, Lauren from Oregon, Lloyd from Florida, Suzanne from England, and myself from Canada. So the reason I'm listing all these names out is just so that you always feel comfortable. If you ever have any questions or comments, don't ever please hesitate to reach out to one of us. We're always happy to speak to you and get to know you. So the next topic on the agenda is for upcoming elections. So Adam, I'll pass it back on to you so you can discuss the elections.
Okay, thank you, Sue. So we are going to email out to you all on the 29th of October, inviting you to elect new board members. Please note that the voting will be open for 2 weeks, so it will close on November the 13th. And so therefore, as members, we'd be very grateful to have your votes for the board members. And in future years as well, we would always be interested in hearing if you have any nominations for the board. So this year on the member slate, we have one current board member whose term expires in December that is looking to renew their board position, and that is our treasurer, Danny Nicholson. as well as 2 new candidates, Jayantha Kalam, if I've pronounced that correctly, and Dr. Pat Letas. So just to give you a brief biography on each, Danny was trained in bookkeeping and accounting in 1977. She has worked in wildlife rehabilitation since 2001. In addition, through her non-profit, whose mission is education and advocacy for wildlife, she serves on 2 committees to modify the fish cleaning station. Danny maintains an active 24-hour house whopper with the Old Wildlife Care Network based in California, and she has worked on a few oil spills, and she is also on the Pacific Wildlife Care Wash Team. Danny is now president of Willow Tree Wildlife. She serves on the Marine Mammal Center at Sausalito Volunteer Council as a San Luis Obispo Satellite Facility representative. Apologies, that's probably not how you pronounce that. She works for Lefebvre Company as a liaison to the wildlife community and travels to conferences several times a year, visiting wildlife groups while traveling. And she's been an excellent treasurer, so we would certainly be happy if you would vote for her to come back in. Jayantha is a executive director of Avian and Reptile Rehabilitation Center in Bangalore, India. She has a strong understanding of the issues that urban wildlife face in a developing country and the importance of the critical role that wildlife rehabilitation centers can play in conserving urban wildlife, along with the challenges involved in the process. Jayantha has been involved in wildlife rehabilitation field for 6 years. Prior to returning to India to open the IWRC, she was a licensed wildlife rehabilitator in New York and also volunteered in Connecticut. She has experience of field management and information technology with an MBA in finance and information technology. And then Pat is currently serving as a volunteer in consultations for avian health, welfare and well-being across the globe and in a spectrum from local bird hoarding cases to parasites in wild macaws and the evaluation of naturalized urban parrots. She received her DVM from Oregon State in 1987. She has served as the avian wildlife veterinarian for Tucson Wildlife Center, the veterinarian for the Arizona Bird Clinic, and the veterinarian at numerous animal shelters. She also serves as a number of committees, including the Southern Arizona Animal Cruelty Task Force, Association of Avian Veterinarians Welfare and Conservation Committees, as well as veterinary and rehabilitation work. Pat is an accomplished artist, both digital and traditional art forms, with a degree in scientific animation. So those are the 3 nominees for the member slate. So as I said, voting opens on the 29th. We will send you an email asking you to vote for these 3 new members, and that voting will close on November the 13th. So please vote. Many thanks.
Thank you, Adam. And so we're getting towards the end of the meeting now. The last 10 minutes, approximate 10 minutes, we'll discuss what's going on in the office. So I'll pass the meeting on to Kai.
All right, fantastic. Thank you. And I'm going to start with a couple of screen shares. So I will share my screen shortly. All right, hopefully everybody can see my screen. Oops, we had a couple of problems with this chart, so we switched to a new one. This is a chart that shows where we've had classes or will have classes in 2018. So you can see there are quite a few classes in North America, along with some courses in South Africa and some courses in Central America and the Caribbean. And that's where our current classes have been. We did have a question come in asking about working on classes in other languages and materials in other languages. And the Panama class here was really exciting because that's the first time we've taught our current basic wildlife rehabilitation class in Spanish. We had taught a couple of special versions in Spanish before with a translator, but this time we actually had an instructor speaking in Spanish. All of the homework, the exam, everything was in Spanish. What we haven't done yet is translate the book Wildlife Rehabilitation: A Comprehensive Approach into Spanish. And we are really looking, as Suzanne said, to get funding for that. And if there are other languages that people would like to see us prioritize as well as Spanish, we would really like to hear about that so we know where to put our priorities. We also have here, you can see that currently the majority of the classes we teach are basic wildlife rehabilitation. That's about 75% of what we teach. After that, it's pain and wound, and these are classroom classes versus the online classes. with reuniting raptors and zoonoses coming up. And we're looking to have a bit more diversity in our classes for 2019, though we still think that basic wildlife rehabilitation will be by far the most popular. Going over to look at our membership, you can see that we have membership all over the world. So that really is true. Obviously, a lot of the countries that we have membership in are more English speaking because that's what our primary language is in. But as Silky asked, we are working to increase the availability of IWRC in other languages. And I also want to just mention, in 2018, we did have one new publication, and that is North American Bird Masses. So that's by Dr. Dunning and edited by Marjan Gadran. And that is kind of a new exciting book we have. We also, in the last year, have had a couple of great partnerships. We taught our basic wildlife rehabilitation class with the United States North American National Wildlife Rehabilitation Association conference in Anaheim, and that went well. We had 40 participants at that class. And we're also planning on their 2019 conference for NWRA, which will be in St. Louis, Missouri. We will also be bringing a class there. So we're looking forward to seeing everybody at that conference. We also became a Association of Zoos and Aquariums learning partner this year. So what that means is that we're formally recognized by the AZA as offering high quality training opportunities that might be useful to AZA members. Our courses can be used as electives for certain concentrations in the AZA Professional Development Certification Program. And also, a reminder, since we're talking about certifications, is IWRC also has several courses that are certified by veterinary agencies for their continuing education. This includes race in North America, as well as in Ireland, the Irish Veterinary Board. And I believe there's a few others as well. But contact the office if you have any questions on that. Over the course of 2018, IWRC has been meeting with the Fish and Wildlife Service in the US, as well as NWRA, to discuss US federal policy changes that might affect wildlife rehabilitators in the US and beyond, such as the US's interpretation of our Migratory Bird Treaty Act. We've also had this excellent opportunity to address the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service permit officers directly for an entire afternoon during their annual meeting, bringing wildlife rehabilitator concerns to them and also getting a better understanding of their perspectives and needs. We're also working in tandem with the National Wildlife Rehabilitation Association in the U.S. on the next edition of Minimum Standards of Wildlife Rehabilitation. The expected publish date is winter of 2020. So look for requests for input in all of your inboxes soon. Finally, from member news, I wanted to let you guys know that we are really honored to be announcing the Helene Van Donnick Memorial Scholarship Fund. Dr. Van Donnick passed away in August. She was passionate about her wildlife rehabilitation, especially education of the public, increasingly the dangers of lead ammunition. The wildlife rehabilitation community has come together to remember Helene by creating and contributing to a fund that supports public education. And IWRC is pleased to manage the fund on behalf of the larger community. And this is a fund that's just getting started, again, at the request of IWRC members and other rehabilitators who knew Helene. And donations can be made online, by mail, or phone. So if this is something you're interested in participating in, look for more communications both from IWRC but also from other rehabilitation organizations regarding the fund and resulting scholarships. I'm going to end us with another poll here before we go into questions. And I'm going to launch that right now. So we would really be interested in knowing more about, this is a statement. Please let us know whether you agree or disagree with it. Conservation and rehabilitation in countries outside my own do not have any impact on me or the regulations I work with. So kind of think of yes as true and no as false. We are debating between no's and yeses. Excellent. We've got pretty good response rate. So I am going to close the poll. And in case anybody's interested, I'm certainly interested and really pleased with this because I think that I see all the time working for IWRC, how regulations and issues in one country have these huge impacts elsewhere. So it sounds like everybody on the call really feels that way too. It's an interesting and important perspective of our working locally on some very global conservation issues. With that, Sue, I'll turn it back over to you, and I know we do have a few questions ready.
Okay, so put aside about 5 minutes to answer some questions. So Kai, can you read them out loud and we can address them?
Absolutely. The first one is going to be verbal. It's going to be from Silky Skinner. So Silky, go ahead.
Hi there. My question is in general about the other languages in other countries. I have a friend in Germany that is a rehabilitator there, and she's working right now to, I want to say, almost build up something like like you guys are, kind of an organization like that. And she would be very interested to see if you guys are ever planning on doing any materials or courses in German.
Excellent. Yes, we're definitely interested. I think in terms of us prioritizing, we really want to hear from our members. You know, we've heard from a lot of our members in Spanish speaking countries that that's something that is really desired and needed. So as we know what the interest is in other areas, we can use that to help prioritize both, like Adam said, in the International Committee, where classes are given, but also what languages we're translating materials into.
Great, awesome, because she is really a force to be reckoned with over there. I want to say she just won an award for her work she does, and it would be really awesome if she could get some help from you. I gave her actually Kai and Jalissa's email address, and she probably will contact you with questions she has.
That's fantastic. I was just going to ask if you would put her in contact with us. We'd love to chat more, and we'll also get her in contact with Mandy and the International Committee.
Okay, awesome.
Any other questions? You can chat them in to Jalissa and I. You can raise your hand. Excellent. Thank you all so much for sticking with us through this. It's kind of been a really fun meeting. Yes, there is one other. One of our members had some suggestions, and then we're going to write down of languages to translate. Pat Lattis suggested French, Arabic, Mandarin, Cantonese, and German. So I think those are all on my wish list. Please, provide more input on this, but I think those are great languages for us to be prioritizing.
Okay, so if we have no other questions, I think we'll close the meeting. It's currently 1:05 p.m. Again, though, don't ever hesitate to contact myself or any of the board members or Kai. We're always here to help and to support you. So thank you again for taking the time, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Fantastic. With that, we'll close the meeting. Thank you, everyone.